Hi, this is Paul with Synergy, and this is a brief video on the command system club billing setup. So I'm logged into command. First thing I'll do is click on admin, and then I'm going to come down to club billing and billing settings. So taking this from top to bottom, the invoice note is connected to a shortcode that you can put into your invoice header or your invoice footer. And the shortcode is %invoice_note. So whatever you put in there is going to be included in the invoice. The invoice header is what's going to be shown on the top of your invoice when it gets generated. And you can include images on that. This is a full HTML editor. You can include shortcodes like this one here. We have %invoice date, %club number, %invoice number, %notes. The %notes is actually coming from the invoice itself, any notes there are on the invoice. The invoice footer start position. So after the header, you're going to see the actual body of the invoice, and that gets generated by command. It has the quantity, price, description, things like that. And then after that is the footer. In certain circumstances, you may want to fit whatever you're printing out into a window envelope, so you might want the footer to start in a certain place. This is a number that will let you adjust where on the page the footer is going to start. So if you generate your invoice and it's a little too high, the footer is a little too high, you would just increase the size of that footer start position. And then down here is the invoice footer. This is what's going to be printed after the body of the invoice. And again, you can put whatever you want in there. It's a full HTML editor, and there are a lot of shortcodes that you can use. You can put in adjustments in command, and adjustments can be generated and sent to the clubs. Works the same way as the invoice. You create a header, command generates the body, and at the footer start position, it starts putting in the adjustment footer. Same thing for statements. You get to put in a statement header and a statement footer, and command will put the body in between. If you put a 0, it's just going to start the footer immediately after the body of the statement. So this from email is if you're going to be sending out invoices via email. This is the from email address that will be used. This is the name that will be used in the email that is being sent with the invoice, and this is what will be filled in as the subject. And this would be the body. The invoice, when it gets sent, is actually created as a PDF and attached to an email, and you would just put in here whatever you want in the body of the email. Now we're going to take a look and see an invoice that is generated. So I'm in the Metropolitan Test Club. We're going to come down and we're going to take a look at this invoice, which is for $625. I'm going to click on this little printer icon here, and it's going to generate a PDF of the invoice. And you can see that it took what we had for our statement header. Our body, like I said, is generated by command, and then we have some white space because we had a specific place that we wanted the footer to start. And then it fills in the footer. Now we're going to come back over to the Club Billing Administration, and we're going to take a look at some of the billing rates. In some cases you may have different rates, like for hardware and software. So that might be for clubs that are using your hardware on site versus clubs that are just using the browser-based system. Here we just have one setup, so I'm going to click on the pencil. And this description is just for your reference. Really does not affect what the clubs see. This top section here would be if we wanted to add a rate. Down below here are all the existing rates that we have identified. The existing rates typically are attached to a specific member type. In this case, we have an E. There are some associations that identify members that have joined online with an E, but that could be an R. You can see down here we've got a J for juniors. This is the rate that the association bills to the club for this specific member type. So in this case we have an E. For an ordinary club it might be an R, and they'd get billed $25. If there is a minimum number of members for this specific type, you would put that in here, and that gets used on the first invoice. So if they don't have enough members, let's say they only have 100 members, you would be billing them for 200, and then in your later catch-up invoices you wouldn't be billing them any more until they met that minimum. This first bill percentage, you may not bill them the entire first invoice. Chances are you wouldn't be combining the two of these. For certain associations, they want to kind of help their clubs earlier in their revenue cycle by, say, only billing 50% of the number of members that they have, and then more in the catch-up mode. The product for billing and the product for billing minimums, those are things that we help you set up in the very beginning. There's an e-commerce system that has products with prices and things associated with them. We would set up these products for you for billing and for minimums, and for adjustments for that matter. So that's not something that you'd ever have to worry about. And then beyond that, there are just more rates. So when it comes time for the club to get billed, the command billing system simply looks up the member type, picks the rate, uses the minimum members and the first bill percentage to construct that billing invoice. Similarly, we can set up dues rates for clubs. There are associations that, in addition to charging per member, they have an annual dues that they charge. So if we just take a look at one of these, really you just put in a description and a rate, and you will see a little later how that ties in. So let's go over to our clubs, take a look at the Metropolitan Test Club, and on the contact screen, the main screen, if we just scroll down a little bit, we will see all the club billing information. Beginning with club billing name, club billing primary contact, club billing email address, club billing PO, that's purchase order. These are things that will get used when the invoices are getting generated on where the invoice should go. This club billing PO is used, there's a short code called %purchase order, which will fill in this, this purchase order from the club, how they would like their invoice delivered, email, paper, or both. And remember, we set up those club billing rates. We can either say do not bill, or there will be a list of all the rates that you've set up. In this case, we've only got one, which is hardware. This club we're saying does not get dues billed, but if I click on the drop down, you will see all the dues rates that were set up in the billing setup. Any club that is not to be billed, you would just have their billing rate as do not bill for both club billing and dues. That is the bulk of the setup. The next video will start going into how to actually create the invoices.